So, it looks like Cyberpunk 2077 is getting a Game of the Year edition in 2023. So, in this video, we're going to go over everything we know so far about this Game of the Year edition and what it will arrive with. But just before we do get into all of that, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any content just like this. If you are one of the first 1,000 subscribers to the channel, you will automatically be entered into a giveaway for a free next-gen physical copy of the next-generation version of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt on a platform of your choice. All you have to be is one of the first 1,000 subscribers on the channel. Are you interested in starting your own gaming channel on YouTube, but simply don't know where to start? Well, I've got just the thing for you. By using the link in the description and the pinned comment, you can get access to a 50-minute free training session with a YouTube expert. And believe it or not, I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about someone who has monetized many YouTube channels, one of them even being this channel right here, which I then took over. Some of the other channels he's monetized includes Joas97, Foot Fanatic, and OpenVision. And of course, he's helped other gamers monetize their own YouTube channels. He's even been helping me monetize my very own YouTube channel from scratch, and the first video I uploaded got over 30,000 views in about a month, which is insane. So the man behind all this is Jamie. Jamie is an expert when it comes to helping YouTube channels grow and improving your skills as a content creator. So I really can comfortably say that if you work with Jamie, the quality of your videos will improve drastically, and that really just is the case. So if you are interested in starting your own gaming YouTube channel, or even if you're not, then you might as well go to the link in the description. It really is just a gift. You get 50 minutes with a YouTube expert for completely free. So go down into the description or the pinned comment and check it out. So GameSpot recently released an article about Cyberpunk 2077 reportedly getting a Game of the Year edition in 2023, and we're going to read through that article now. And just a heads up that this article is in the description as well if you want to read it for yourself. It appears that CD Projekt plans on releasing a Game of the Year edition for its most recent game, Cyberpunk 2077. In an investor meeting reported on by Insider Gaming, CD Projekt CEO Adam Kaczynski stated that the studio intends to release a Game of the Year edition after the launch of the upcoming game's DLC, Phantom Liberty, and we'll get onto that DLC in a minute. The report states that Kaczynski said the following about the upcoming re-release of Cyberpunk 2077 next year. It's the natural order of things. It was the same with The Witcher, which after both expansions was finally released as a Game of the Year edition and has been on the market that way ever since. This can be expected in this case. It was previously reported that the Phantom Liberty would be the only DLC for Cyberpunk 2077. Following its release, CD Projekt Red will reportedly begin working on Project Orion, the Cyberpunk 2077 sequel's code name, in 2023. So there you go, it looks like there is a Game of the Year edition in the works for Cyberpunk 2077. Now, as the CEO did mention, this did actually happen for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, and ever since that did release, you couldn't really get just the standard version of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt physically. If you were to go onto, say, Amazon and you were to try and purchase The Witcher 3, it would pretty much always be the Game of the Year edition. You wouldn't be able to get the standard edition physically. So since CD Projekt Red also develops The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, I think it's worth looking at the Game of the Year edition for The Witcher 3 and how that all works. So we're going to read the description for the Game of the Year edition of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt straight off Steam. If you buy this game, you will receive a free next-gen update on December 14th. On this date, this product's name will also change from Game of the Year edition to Complete edition. So as I did mention earlier with the giveaway, there is going to be a next generation version of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I've been doing loads of videos of that on my channel, so feel free to go and check them out. So a Game of the Year edition is basically a Complete edition, but since they are adding a couple new DLCs, then obviously it's going to change to Complete edition, and there will be no more further development really for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt after that. So, you know, Complete edition, it will full on be complete. Now, something I do find interesting is that on Nintendo Switch, they didn't actually create a Game of the Year edition when it did release. They just made it a Complete edition. Now, it did release later than the Game of the Year edition did, so that's maybe why, and they might not have plans for a next generation version at the time. But if you were to, say, want to get The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt on Nintendo Switch, you can either get the standard version or the Complete edition. There is no Game of the Year option. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt's Game of the Year edition brings together the base game and all the additional content released to date. So yeah, as I mentioned before, it's basically a Complete edition. It's just sort of another way of putting it that makes the game sound a bit better. Includes the Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine expansions, which offer a massive 50 hours of additional storytelling, as well as new features and new areas that expand the explorable world by over a third. So yeah, that sort of backs up the idea that it is basically a Complete edition. It does come with the main expansions that arrived with The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt later down the line, and yeah, they just made this version that brings it all together. Affords access to all additional content released so far, including weapons, armor, side quests, game modes, and new Gwent cards. So as you can see there, you are getting the base game along with all of the DLCs. Features all technical and visual updates, as well as a new user interface completely redesigned on the basis of feedback from members of the Witcher community. So there you go, that's everything you get with the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Game of the Year edition, and obviously with the next generation updates releasing later this month, then there will be a complete edition, which I suppose makes sense. Sort of going from a Game of the Year edition to a full-on complete edition makes sense. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with Nintendo Switch, because at some point next year they will be releasing those DLCs on the other generation of consoles, PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there, since the game already has a complete edition. On PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, though, it is just the Game of the Year edition or the standard version, but on Nintendo Switch, yeah, it's a complete edition. As generally speaking, with the next generation update or not, the Game of the Year edition is basically another way of making it a complete edition. We've seen it with some other games as well. I believe the Spider-Man game does have a Game of the Year edition, but it's literally just a complete edition. So yeah, you do get the DLCs that release with the game. So yeah, Game of the Year edition is basically a complete edition. So that's what we can expect to arrive with Cyberpunk 2077. Now obviously CD Projekt Red did confirm that this would be the final DLC for Cyberpunk 2077. This is the only one that's planned anyway, and then for them to release a Game of the Year edition after this DLC does release would sort of, you know, it would put the icing on the cake really, and it would show that that's sort of that's Cyberpunk 2077 finished. Now before this Phantom Liberty DLC, there hasn't really been any other major DLCs for the game. We've had a couple updates such as the Edge Runners update, but that wasn't really a DLC, that was more literally just an update. So of course it will include all that. It'll be the latest version of the game along with this Phantom Liberty DLC. So you might be wondering, well, what is this Phantom Liberty DLC? And yeah, I'll get into that now. At the moment we don't really have many details about it. We've got an official teaser and I will link that in the description, but we don't really have anything other than that, a few details, and yeah, I'll get into that. Phantom Liberty will be a spy thriller and will involve espionage work for the United States of America. It will star game's main protagonist V and Johnny Silverhand, the popular Cyberpunk 2077 character played by Keanu Reeves. It is worth noting that this DLC will also be in a new district of Night City, so it should provide plenty more content for fans. The Cyberpunk 2077 game director also shared that there will be a new cast of characters with the Phantom Liberty DLC. Now in terms of release date, all we know is 2023. We don't know when in 2023. This could literally be any time. I don't think it'll be early on in 2023, since I think we would have an actual release date by now. So sometime later down the line, when it comes to maybe Q3, Q4 of 2023 is maybe when we could expect this DLC to arrive. But to be honest, yeah, it could arrive at any time. So there you go, that's basically everything there is to know so far about a Cyberpunk 2077 Game of the Year edition. I think sort of inevitable. I think something like this will happen, whether it's called Game of the Year edition or it's called Complete Edition or anything like that. Yeah, I think something like that is bound to happen. Obviously, if you already own Cyberpunk 2077, the base game, and then you plan on getting the new DLC when that does arrive, then there's not really any point in getting the Game of the Year edition, since you're not going to gain anything from it at all. Unless, of course, you wanted a physical copy of the Game of the Year edition, which I assume will happen. I'd be very, very surprised if that didn't happen. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this down in the comments below, and if you'd be looking forward to a Game of the Year edition of Cyberpunk 2077, and if you're interested in playing the Phantom Liberty DLC. Personally, I'm looking forward to the DLC, and I'll make sure to do loads of videos about it on this channel. Lastly, just a reminder about the Witcher 3 Next Gen physical copy giveaway. By being one of the first 1,000 subscribers on the channel, you will automatically be entered into a giveaway for a free physical copy of the next generation version of The Witcher 3 on a platform of your choice. All you got to do is be one of the first 1,000 subscribers on the channel. So if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any content just like this. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.